Dominique Tubbs of Dom in the City is known as the go-to guide for eating your way through New York City and a food and lifestyle blogger. She's been featured in publications such as Thrillist, Travel Noir, Delish, and Pop Sugar, showing you how to dine in NYC, at-home cooking tips, and more. She's passionate about highlighting businesses from marginalized communities and loves finding hidden gems throughout the city. We are so excited to chat with Dom today.
So Dom, I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I did not realize until we were prepping for this interview that you're from right outside St. Louis. I am from St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis.
Get
Yes,
out.
I'm here right now visiting my family. And I know you grew up over in the Illinois area. I literally was in Illinois yesterday at Milliken seeing my cousin's art show. So it's just like wild. Yeah. So whereabouts did you grow up?
So I was a military brat, which is a term people normally use. So I grew up on Scott Air Force Base, but the school that I went to is called Mascoutah. It's like this very small school in a farming town. But yeah, so I graduated with a class of like 75 people. It was probably the shortest graduation anyone's ever been in, like in and out in under an hour.
I just love that you love St. Louis so much and appreciate it. I feel like I love it more and more every year as I get older. Like I started loving it more after living in New York. Do you know what I mean?
I tell people that all the time. Like people, I remember when I first moved here, people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Well, if I tell you, you won't know." So outside of the St. Louis area, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go to St. Louis." I'm like, "Says no one ever." But then when I started going back as an adult after like living in New York, I had like a different type of appreciation for it. And I think you can agree with me. St. Louis is so different compared to like when we lived there. Like we didn't have a lot of dining options. It was a lot of like chain restaurants and a drunken fish here and there. But outside of that, it wasn't that much. But now the dining scene has changed so much. And neighborhoods have, I mean, part of gentrification is like the changing of the landscape. But like the Grove used to be a spot where you would just go to like late at night for like an after hour bar. But now it's like a place you can take your family and it's like plenty of restaurants. So it has experienced a lot of changes, but I'm thankful for those changes because obviously it provides people with options and jobs. So
yeah,
I'm here for it.
So funny. The Grove. I never heard about that. When I was growing up, we would hang out in U City. Like that would be the thing. We'd like go to the pageant. We'd hang out in U City. I used to dance at Coca in U City. So I'd like be hanging out there. But like now I talk to my friends, they're like, "Oh, we're going to the Grove." I'm like, "What is happening? What is the Grove? Like what's going on?"
Literally, I'm like, what are you going to the Grove for? Like there's only like 2 bars, but now like there's like a tiki bar, there's rooftop bars. It's wild. And there was actually a restaurant that was featured on one of those Netflix food shows. And it was featured on Netflix. And I'm like, that's St. Louis. But it's crazy.
That's so neat. Okay, so you mentioned that you're a military brat, but both your folks were in the military, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you were traveling before you landed in St. Louis. Were you moving around a lot and living in different places? And how did that influence your lifestyle today and your love for food blogging and content creation?
Yeah, so like just like you mentioned, my mom was Navy, my dad was Air Force. So my mom was actually active duty, my dad was reserve. When she got pregnant, she found out and she's like, "Well, I'll just go reserve." And he went active duty. So they literally just changed statuses. But I got really lucky after I was born in Ohio. So a lot of my family's from Cincinnati. We then moved to Athens, Greece, which is like an amazing experience. And you would think at the age of like 4 to like, because I lived there from like 4 to 7, you wouldn't remember it, but like I remember so much of it. So we lived there. We then moved to Portugal. We lived on the island, so not the mainland. And then I've also lived in Spain, Italy as well too. So I was like so used to being the new kid. I would move every 3 to 4 years, but which is really cool because as an adult, it's a great skill to have, being the new person in the room all the time. But as a kid, it really sucks. But I was lucky because I had a younger brother. So I had like a built-in best friend. My mom, she now works in banking, but before that she was a chef. And I think it really had to do with like the influence of us traveling so much, exploring different types of foods and cuisines. Like I was telling somebody the other day when I was younger, when we moved back to the States, we went to like get shrimp or something. It was like fresh shrimp. And I'm like, where are the heads at? Because we're like, when you live overseas, like the shrimp is whole with the head and the eyes. And so like, it was just really interesting to like learn so much about the space of food at such a young age and have such an appreciation for it. So when I moved to New York, I'm like, I can literally get everything that I want. And as you guys know, there's plenty of food options in New York. So, and we work really hard for our money. So I always like to share with people the ones that I enjoy the most, or the ones that like are worth spending your hard-earned dollars for.
I mean, your life experience is so cool. You've seen it all. And also, one of my favorite people, shout out to my friend Jason VC, his parents were in the Air Force and they moved constantly. And he's one of my favorite people because he is so empathetic and understanding of whoever he's in the room with, different background, different culture, different life experience. And he can talk to anyone. He's very adventurous when it comes to food, because he had that experience that I feel like a lot of people don't get until they're adults. Like they go study abroad, which a lot of times is really shocking, or in college. And a lot of times that's really shocking to people, because it's like, oh my God, I remember some of my friends going through, oh my God, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I don't speak this language. I'm not like the cool person. I don't know what's going on. I'm confused. Like, and that's really humbling. That's really, really humbling to people and a really great experience to people. But you kind of had that in the spades. Like you were just rolling with that your whole life.
That's all I had
wild.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I tell people all the time, like, I think the other reason why I really latch onto food so much is because regardless of where you're from, it's something that we can all talk about, you know? And I think, like I said, I'm always used to being the new kid. So I'm always having to find something like, okay, like what common ground do I have with this person that I just met yesterday? So, you know, I think it's a skill that I'm so thankful for now. So like when I'm so used to doing things by myself, like I've been married for 8 years and I still go on solo dates, and people are like, that's so weird to go to dinner by yourself. I'm like, actually, it's the best thing ever. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about someone saying, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or can we share this? Because I'm not sharing anything. It's just me.
Yes. And you don't have to talk to anybody. You can just sit and enjoy and taste your food. And I love going to dinner by myself. People think I'm crazy too.
Same. I've gone to a movie by myself too. There's something about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Once in a while, especially in New York when it's so busy, it's like that little piece of quiet time feels good. So your mom was a chef. You grew up trying all different kinds of foods. And I heard you say on another podcast, this kind of like all started with Yelp, and you are a Yelp elite. So how did it all start with Yelp, and what does Yelp elite even mean for people who don't know?
So when I lived in St. Louis, I don't think I used Yelp. So when I lived in St. Louis, that was back in like 2012. But then I got married, we moved to Philly, and one of my job at that time, I was working for a marketing company. We were doing this national expansion. And so my job was to like go to different states every month, explore the lay of the land in terms of like competitors and things like that. So I would be living in a state for 30 days, like just me. I would be in places that I've never been before. But I'm like, okay, like how do I find out, like where do I get my nails done? Where do I drop off my dry cleaning? Who has the best happy hours? Where can I have my solo date night and it's not a creep in the corner? So that's how I found Yelp. And then I was like, wow, I'm so thankful for these people who wrote these like very thoughtful, intentional reviews that like I've been able to come here and now enjoy my experience. So I was like, let me pay it forward and like write a review. And at this time I didn't understand what Yelp Elite meant. Fast forward 2 years later, we now moved to New York, and I realized like the Yelp Elite is like a really big thing. Like people would be like, oh, do you Yelp? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, but are you elite? And I'm like, I just Yelp for fun, so I don't know. And then Yelp started sending out these emails to people when they like list their location, and they're like, we're having a holiday hangover cruise. I'm like, what is that? And I'm about it. And it was like a 2-hour cruise, open bar, like 60 different like local vendors, food wise. And I was like, okay. So I went, RSVP, got in, which apparently it was some very hard thing to do, but I'm like, I just hit the RSVP button and got lucky. So whatever. Met some other Yelp leaders, and they're telling me like, oh, well, like the great thing about being Yelp elite is like it shows people that you're very thoughtful about your reviews and you're experienced and knowledgeable, and you get to attend these really cool events. They happen like 6 times a month, and it's free food. You get to try new restaurants. And I'm like, I always like to try new things.
Yes.
How do I do this? Sign me up. And they ended up nominating me. I ended up getting in. So I think I've been like elite for like 8 years, maybe. I can't remember. But pretty much you can look at elite as people who really take their reviewing like seriously. Like they're normally the people with the very long paragraphs. They're reviewing the bathrooms. They're letting you know how clean they are. But yeah, so that's actually like my start of sharing my food experiences.
That's amazing. So that led into you creating your own blog, and now you're known as Dom in the City. Okay, so that you kind of led us into that, but what was the actual inspiration that you were like, okay, I need to move out of Yelp and get my own platform?
Yeah, my friends, I tell people this all the time. I actually got tired of repeating myself over and over. Like my friends are like, what's your favorite whatever? What's your favorite whatever? And I'm like, why don't I like put this somewhere else? Like, and I didn't understand the concept of like blogging yet, because I wasn't reading other people's blogs. I was like reading like Thrillist and like New York Times, like for food and things like that. My friend's like, well, I'm starting a blog and like you can write about food, I write about fashion, and somebody else writes about lifestyle. I'm like, people read blogs? Like that's a thing? Because this is like 2016 probably. And so I started doing it and my friends were like, oh my gosh, I love, seeing your photos and you talking about these restaurants. But sometimes I get tired of like digging through someone else's site to find your content. And I said, oh, okay. And then I was like, maybe I should create my own platform. And I tell people all the time, I sat on my domain and my website for like 2 years. I made excuses like I need a photographer, I need someone to build my website, I need to work out a little bit more, I want to lose 10 pounds.
Yes.
I just made so many excuses. And then my husband, which is always my biggest supporter, was like, I think you just need to jump into this. Like just do it. And I was like, okay. I'm a firm believer in public accountability. So I told everybody, like, I'm launching my website on my birthday. And I think I was turning 33 at that time. So I'm like, 12, whatever, 2017, I'm launching my website. So like, as the day's getting closer, I'm like getting nervous, but I launched it that day. And my friends have just been so supportive. And like I said, Dom in the City has offered me opportunities that I would not have thought that just by sharing my food experiences would allow me. So very thankful.
That's so inspiring.
Just really appreciate your niche because we were listening to you on another podcast and I liked what you said about like, so I was reading, Delish and Thrillist and Infatuation and no one's talking about what's happening in the city above 96th Street. And it's like, hello, McFly. There's like a lot of the city left up there. And Tina, I lived on 172nd for years. I lived in Washington Heights. Tina lives around the Harlem area. Like, we have done a lot of exploring up there, but it's so cool that you're kind of bringing in a different area of the city to someone who like lives on 14th Street and doesn't go above Columbus Circle.
Oh yeah, I've had that question so many times. Like people are like, where do you live? I'm like, oh, I live like in the 130s, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so far. And I'm like, I have friends that live in the 200s. I have friends that live in the Bronx. But I'm always the type of person that I'm willing to go anywhere for good food. I pride myself on like not chasing the food fad, but like telling you the story about like why you should love this restaurant, who the person who owns it is. And then also, since I live in Harlem, I come from like a long line of business owners and entrepreneurs. I understand the importance of supporting your local businesses, regardless if it's Black owned, woman owned, locally owned. It needs to be supported because if you don't support them, it's going to be replaced by like a Dwayne Reed or a Starbucks. Yes. And I'm not trying to be funny. We got enough. We have enough. That's why they're 24 hours. But yeah, so like I told on previous podcasts, I just always felt like uptown and surrounding areas were left out of these like lists that were created by these large publications. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna make my own list. So I think that's how I became like somewhat of like a food authority for Harlem. And I love showing people why I love this neighborhood so much. Like this has been the only neighborhood I've ever lived in New York, and it'll probably be the last neighborhood I'll ever live in New York because I feel so connected. And it's great when you like go to the coffee shop and you know everybody there, and you see your real estate agent and you see your personal trainer, or you go to your local watering hole and you get connected with your new doctor that you've been looking for that lives around the corner. So it's just a great community. So
it really is. It really is. Some of my favorite restaurants that I've ever been to are in Harlem. Have you tried Belle Harlem? Have you been to Belle?
Yes. Let me tell you about them. I'm obsessed with them. Like in real life, I love a husband-wife duo.
They're friends of mine. They like come see me in shows and like we hang out, and they're Melissa and Daryl, and they're amazing. Yes. Okay, so you've been, and have you been to their coffee shop, Inc?
I just had a bagel from them yesterday. Like I eat there so much. It is. Like I placed an order yesterday and I ordered the cinnamon roll, which I tell everyone gets a cinnamon roll, and I forgot to select the icing. Sent my husband to go get it, and they're like, we thought it was really weird that your wife did not ask for icing. And I was like, and they're like, we put it in the bag. And I'm like, this is why I love you. But I love that couple. And Melissa, she's also a Sagittarius. I don't believe in zodiac signs, but when you're a Sagittarius, I do believe in it.
Yes.
But she's also a Sagittarius. So I call her my sassy Sagittarius sister. Because she's sassy. She keeps it real.
She's so sassy. I love her.
I love it. But yeah, that's one of the businesses that I'm always telling people about, like at least once a week. Like I love bagels. I love Bo's in Harlem. But I also love Inc. because they're two different types of bagels, but I love supporting them. I might order one when I get done with this.
I actually might too. That's a really good idea. They make their bagels in-house. Oh my, it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. They're so good. Yeah. And Melissa and Daryl are just Daryl is like unreal. He's an unreal chef. And Melissa, his wife, is so brilliant when it comes to wine pairings. She's a sommelier, and they work so hard and they're so talented. I'm obsessed with them.
Tina, you've been telling me about them for a while. I really need to go up there and go with you.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so excited to tell them that I've met you, Dom. I'm like so thrilled.
Please.
Yes.
See, I'm telling you, this is a perfect example of why Harlem is so amazing, because where else do you get to like really meet the people behind this vision or behind this place that like leaves this impact on you, like to the point where you want to tell other people, and that's what it's all about.
Yes,
that's
I know.
why I love it.
I love it too. And like, I never would have expected, like, I would know owners of a restaurant that I love that are like friends of mine that I'm like, like going, like hanging out with. And it's like, oh yeah, my friends own a restaurant, like a very great award-winning restaurant in Harlem. Like, it's so cool. But yeah, I don't think you get that anywhere else.
Wait, are you a Sagittarius?
I am.
So are we.
So Tina and I are both Sagittarius.
This is why the energy is flowing like this. This is exactly what it is.
I know.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
It's
12/12. What about everybody else?
November 23rd.
Okay.
First day of Sagittarius.
Okay.
November 9th for me.
Oh my gosh. I love this.
I know.
This
I
is
love this too.
Hilarious. Yeah.
This is good.
Is it? Okay. So you were mentioning earlier, you were saying, just because of what I do, I've gotten to do these cool things. When you look back, what have been some of the biggest highlights? Like, what are some of the coolest things, some of your fondest memories of things you got to do because of your blog, your Instagram account, your Yelp?
Man, I mean, I'm really grateful for every opportunity. So the list would be very long.
Right.
But getting to work with like Harlem business owners, or just things that are connected to the business or connected to the neighborhood. Like, for example, I work with Carver Bank often, and it is one of the largest Black managed banks in the United States. And they do a lot of like giving back to the community, finding ways to make sure that small business owners are able to get loans and get approved for them. Because the majority of the time, if you're a first-time business owner, you're doing it, you have no idea what you're doing. So that's been like one of my favorite things, and like increasing financial literacy amongst people in my generation, or just that look like me, or we got out of college and we're working. So things like that. I went on a press trip to Houston. Actually, never been to Houston. It was my first time going to Texas, which I thought was kind of crazy, being this old, going to Texas for the first time.
After you lived like everywhere in the world.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, everyone's like, the first time in Texas? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's crazy. I don't think I know. But I went on a press trip, and it was really cool because every day was planned down to a T, from like breakfast, lunch, an event, exercise, happy hour. And I really got to like learn more about Houston, but not just like the foods, but like the arts, the culture, and the history. And like the fact that someone like flew me out to another state and like pay for my hotel and everything. I was just like, wow, I'm so grateful that these people understand the value of my platform and what I'm doing, and how me sharing this with others can bring them to Houston. So that's definitely like one of my favorite experiences. And I've got to work with like some of my favorite companies that I've like loved forever, like Panera, or St. Louis Bread Co. Is what we call it. And that was like one of my favorite collaborations. And, also working with other people who are tied to St. Louis, like Budweiser, getting to speak on panels. I mean, the list can really go on, but those are just like a couple of things that have really like scratched the surface for me. And I feel like more greatness is coming. But also I had the ability to like kind of switch lanes a little bit from like influencing and blogging into the space of social media management or in consulting. So helping like small business owners who are just starting out, and helping them to understand the importance of showing up as your best self online, and being very intentional about what you post. So that has also been even more rewarding than the influencing and blogging aspect of Dom in the City.
So you are very intentional about what you post. It is not just willy-nilly. It is beautiful. It has a purpose. It has a message. I just fully enjoy, like, I know I'm going to get really good information when I'm scrolling and I watch your story, or I'm scrolling through your feed and I'm like, oh, what's this? Like, I know I'm going to get something really valuable.
Yeah. And that's why I tell people, like, when you do social media, do it with intention. And I will literally take a break if I do not feel like what I'm doing is intentional. I will not do it if my heart is not in it. And it's funny, my friend the other day was like, you're either 100% in it or like 0% not in it. And you're like, it's a no for me. So that's how I work. And I think that's how everybody should work. I don't think you should just go through the motions just to go through the motions. And I tell people everything that you should do should be intentional, like down to like, how do you get to where you need to be? Like on the train, like get in the first car so you can go off this stairwell. Like, I just always think about, I'm planning things down to the T.
Yes.
And it's just like my type A personality, but yeah.
Well, and that authenticity and that being so genuine is what is so appealing to, you know, everybody to come, and that's what makes us trust you as a valuable resource, because you're not going to just post something just because you need content for the day. You know, it's going to have meaning behind it. So we're lucky enough to have you as a resource for the best local businesses, female-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses. What are your resources? How are you discovering these places?
That's a really good question. Sometimes I just I keep my ear to the ground, but I will definitely, I would love this opportunity to just shout out some other accounts that I feel that bring value to me. So one is the Curious Uptowner. That has to be my favorite Harlem based Instagram account. And I tell people, if you're not following the Curious Uptowner, I don't know what you're doing, but do it. It's worth the follow. They're always in tune to what's getting ready to open, when is it going to open, who owns it, or events about town. And then I love a good mini bar at home. So when it comes to cocktails and learning more about it, my friend Camille, and her name is the cocktail snob _, and she's based uptown, actually, even farther uptown than me. And she's just we both started our blogging journey at the same time, and now she's about to be a published author, but she's always putting me on to the newest bars. And I'm well, if it's Camille approved, I need to go. I think also I just scour across the internet and just, I always tell people I'm curious and I'm nosy. So, and also sometimes I'll just be walking, and this is the great thing about me and my friends, we'll be walking and we'll be that place looks cool. Let's just go in. And we just go in. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to the bartender. I'm learning about the business. I'm now meeting the owner. I'm in the DMs keying with the owner now, but that's just how I just kind of move across social media and in real life. I'm just really curious, and I'm always just asking questions. So that way I'm getting the information straight from the source and then sharing it with my followers.
Yeah. You're a researcher who leaves room for spontaneity. I feel that really hit home for me. I feel that's exactly how I work too. I totally get that. Okay. Can you give us some of your top New York City recommendations? Just the first few places that come to mind.
So for brunch, people always, and you guys know this, anytime someone comes to New York, they're always I want to go to brunch. And I'm always okay, but what vibe do you want though?
Yes.
Hotel Chantel is something you always have to do at least once, because it's the quintessential New York brunch. If I'm uptown, I'm normally going to be at Veneteria, because I think their brunch menu is solid. You can get everything from a burger to a steak to pancake. Also, I love Hotel Morris. It's in Chelsea. It is directly off the 1 train at the 18th stop. And they have these cinnamon roll pancakes that I cannot stop thinking about. And I'm always setting my alarm for 8 o'clock in the morning so I can be the first person down there, because I love to be the first person for your brunch. That's me. I'm a little old lady. I'm newspaper and all. But yeah, so definitely Hotel Morris. I believe they have rosé on tap, which is never a bad thing. They have a beautiful indoor and outdoor dining section. So those are my top picks for brunch. And then if I'm in Brooklyn, I'm hooked on Kokomo, because they have solid cocktails and their brunch portions are huge. You'll probably need to get a takeout box. So those are just a couple of my brunch spots.
I mean, a couple. I feel you could list 20. So we're scraping the tip of the iceberg here. Yeah. Okay. So what would be your top 2 drinks and apps?
All right. So I've been on this Lido kick, because I'm uptown. Lido has a really good happy hour menu, but it includes food, which is not as common anymore. And they have this cheesy garlic bread. But when you get garlic bread, it's normally a hard melted cheese. This is it's just creamy. It's I don't know how they do it. I don't ask any questions. I just order it. So I normally have several glasses of wine and then the garlic bread. So it's the type of garlic that lives in your chest for 24 hours.
That's my favorite kind.
Yes. Because if you're not eating garlic that way, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What's the point?
That means it's not even fresh, and we need fresh. We deserve fresh garlic all the time.
Yes.
So that is definitely one of my favorite happy hours. Keeping it local. I also love Bixie. I feel you can find me at Bixie at least twice a week. And I believe they have all day happy hour on Monday and Tuesday, I believe. Yes. But they have a very active social, so you'll always know what the deals are. I just got a membership to Soho House because I became part of the membership committee. And I'm on a picante kick, hardcore. So if any restaurant has a spicy margarita or a spicy mezcal drink, I'm there. That's all I need. A salty rim, I need it.
I love mezcal.
Mermaid Inn, their spicy marks, solid, really good.
How is the membership to Soho House? Like, tell us all of the things.
Okay, so I've always been a forever +1 to Soho House.
Yeah.
Forever. There's a total of 3 houses in New York. So there's like the first one, which is in meatpacking. There's Ludlow, and then there's Dumbo House. I love Ludlow, like love. It's just like a little bit more laid back and chill. But I think what really sells me on Ludlow is the food, because I have a restaurant called Ducked Up. So it's like an Asian fusion restaurant. They have the best Peking duck I've ever had in my life. And you can't take photos in Ludlow or Soho House, so I have no photos of these things.
Yeah, they're really strict.
Well, yeah, I think what it is like, since it is like a members only space, I think they're trying to protect the privacy of others. But I always want to take a photo of this duck for people so they can see it. Because like they like slice it and like they put it on this plate in this circular. Oh my gosh, it's just crispy on the outside, moist on the inside. It's a great place for creatives. It's a great place if you like co-work, if you work remotely. So I find a lot of value in it. And also I just get to connect with other people who are in a similar space as me, or maybe not even a similar space as me, which is one of the things I love doing, is like meeting people who do other things. Like I have so much of appreciation for podcasters, because you guys are doing the Lord's work, honestly. Because you have to record, then you have to edit, and then you got to promote, and then you got to keep promoting, and then you got to maintain websites. It's a whole other job.
It's a full-time job, yeah.
And that's why
it's so funny. I love that you say that. Because I know so many people are like, don't you just hop on and then you just like forget about, people who aren't in the creative space. But I always say the most fun and the easiest part is what we're doing right now. Like, this is like the fun part. The work part is all of the other things that you just described. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm really big on like breaking down to others who may not be in the creative space, so they understand like the work that we do is not just as simple as point and click and go and then post. Mm-hmm. It's not just like recording this here and logging onto a Zoom. There's more that goes on beyond that. And that's why, that's what makes a successful platform, people who are sticking to it, being consistent, providing value, things like that. So kudos to you guys. But that's why I love going to places like Soho House, because I get to meet people who are in different lanes than me, like chefs, podcasters, photographers. Like, it's just great.
So are you like really doing it? Like, are you like at the pool party, like with a cocktail, like in your suit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm picturing you like looking fabulous at the pool with like a swimming outfit.
So probably this has been like the running joke. I told everybody this summer, I'm going to be WFP, working from the pool. That's going to be my new thing.
Yes.
Working from the pool with the picante in my hand. But yeah, I mean, like only 2 of the houses have a pool. So only Dumbo and the one in Meatpacking have a pool. So Ludlow doesn't have a pool. I'm not really like a pool girl or like a swimming person.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So, I mean, I might wade in the water with a picante, but but I'm definitely going to be trying to catch like some sun and some breeze off the pool or something. But yeah, I feel like this summer is going to be like, it's going to be a lot. I feel like I told my friends, I'm like, you know what? I feel like this summer, like a lot of the restrictions have been lifted in New York. I was like, so you need to do things like make reservations well in advance. Don't walk up to a restaurant expecting to get in, and like, don't get upset if it's a 30-minute wait. So I think this summer is going to be the summer for the books, definitely.
Okay, so you're working from the pool this summer, and a lot of people think that you're a full-time food blogger, but you, like us, have more than one job. What is the other part of your life, and what's your other job, and what are you going to be working from the pool doing?
Well, I work for a company called Squarespace, and it's funny because I was actually a customer of Squarespace for like 7 years before I even started working there. I work in our operations team, so I manage the lovely people that you chat with and email in when you have questions about your website. I've been in the tech space for 7 years, and I really enjoy it because it's so innovative. And working in the tech space has taught me a lot about running my own business or like building something from the ground up. It's taught me to be a better problem solver, critical thinker. So people always ask me like, will you ever like quit working and like do this full time? And probably not, because I'm a person who likes balance. I'm a person who likes like challenge. So like trying to figure out like, how am I going to get all these things done today? What matters the most? What can I deprioritize and move to tomorrow? So I work specifically in the space of people management. Something that brings me joy is developing people professionally, showing them how to bring their best self to work, getting them to the next step in their career. So I really enjoy that aspect of my job. So that's probably why I will be a people manager forever.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because Alex and I do multiple jobs, and it's not because we can't do just one. It's because we enjoy so many different things, and I think sometimes we get pigeonholed into like you have to be this one thing, and it's like no, you
Hmm.
can be multiple things and be successful at all of them.
Yep, it's so true. And I always tell people, I think in the world that we live in right now, I always tell people, social media is what people want to present to you. And I think so many times we see other people on social media and they're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this full time, and you have no idea if they have help, if they have a virtual assistant. So I always tell people, like, keep that type of stuff in mind when you're comparing yourself up against others, if they're not being transparent about the team that they have possibly. So, but I enjoy trying to juggle it all. And I know people always ask me, like, how do you get it done? Like, I'm like, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just lay in my bed all day and watch Netflix, and it's okay to take a day off and and also rest as well too. So, and I think I'm really in tune with my body when I know my body is like, I need a break, or my social meter is running empty. You need to take a day to yourself. So that's always something that's really important to keep in mind when you're trying to juggle all these things.
Like you said, balance. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Balance.
I like what you said about people not being transparent or being transparent about their social media teams. Some of the people I follow that I love are because they're so transparent about my social media team. This is the girl that shoots. This is the lighting. And I think that's cool. First of all, it's cool to know when you're comparing, because like you can't compare when someone has a 5-person team and you have but I also think it's like, oh, that's aspirational. Maybe one day I'll have, I really, really appreciate that. So what are some of the systems or kind of the things that you use to manage your time that really you find work for you in balancing kind of the business part of your life and the creative blogging part of your life?
Oh man, so I'm super old school. So a good old handy dandy planner. I swear by my planner. I think it goes with me everywhere. If I'm going to happy hour, I bring it with me too.
Oh my God, I'm the same way. I cannot do like the calendar and the phone. It's like, no, I want to write it down. I want it to be color coded. I want to hold the planner in my hand. I'm like that with books too. Like I can't even do a Kindle. It's like I want to hold a real book.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And I love color coding. I like throwing some stickers in there.
Yes.
I love like mapping out how much time do I need in between the like travel, giving myself a 30-minute buffer so I can grab a coffee. So definitely a planner. I still like have my electronic calendar in my iPhone as well too. Just like if I'm like, I can't take my planner with me, I always have it so I know what I'm doing. I love Asana. I use it for a multitude of things. When it comes to like, I need to refresh my social assets and what do I need to refresh? I use Planoly for Instagram for like scheduling posts. I think that's like a lifesaver because I think when I first started blogging, I would post like 6 times a week, and I really learned that was not sustainable over time. It was sustainable at that moment because I was able to use Planoly, but now I just feel like I'm more in the space of like trying to live in the moment and enjoy it. But that's also why Planoly is now so beneficial to me because I can post about it. It sends me a reminder that I posted. Now I can go engage.
Do you do any kind of like time blocking? So like, okay, you're working something 9 to 5. Do you have like, okay, Saturday I'm doing content creation day. Sunday I'm editing, like any sort of thing like that?
Yeah. So what I typically do is like, I do time blocks and I also track how long it takes me to do certain tasks. So sometimes I will schedule posts for like Twitter, Facebook, and things like that so I can keep them active. So I'll take like, okay, 30 minutes, you're going to sit down and you're going to plan out 2 weeks worth of tweets. And typically these tweets are me like retweeting previous blog posts that I had wrote, so it can continue to recirculate. So that's an example of me like saying like, I know it takes me an hour to do this, or I'm going to sit down and plan out my social media for like the next 6 posts, which is 2 weeks, and I'm going to go write my captions, and I'll give myself like 2 hours to do all that and research hashtags. Sometimes I'll give myself an hour just to research about new systems that are coming out, new things that Instagram's doing, because it's always doing something new.
It's always doing something new, like every other week.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'll even put, I mean, I'm so OCD about my calendar. I'll put time in my calendar to clean out my inbox. Like, did you check your email? Like that's literally the notification. Staying on top of emails. I also use a system called Streak, for email management. And the reason why I use that is it reminds me to follow up with people if they haven't followed up with me. I need a reminder for everything in life.
Ditto. Same.
Yeah, so I even use it. I mean, the great thing about Streak is like it's like this flow chart, and you can like put your emails into different pieces of the flow chart. So when I work with brands, like there's a box that says like introduction, beginning conversation, and then when we move over to negotiation, I can put them in that box. When we move over to creating assets, I can put them in that box. When they paid me, which is my favorite part, I can put them in that box. So like it's a constant thing that I do. I always tell people, if you find yourself doing a task at least 3 times or more, you need to find a way to automate it, or you need to find a way to make it more efficient. If you feel like you're forgetting to follow up with people, set a reminder to follow up with people.
I love that. Yeah, like nip that in the bud. Like, what's the pattern here?
Yes.
Yeah. You're very self-aware, and I really love your mindset. It feels like you don't have a big ego about this at all. Like you're always just like, how can I improve? How can I be better?
Yeah, and that's what I was telling somebody the other day. Like, I'm not a person who makes resolutions. At the end of the year, I look back at the last year. I'm like, am I better than what I was last year? I'm also a person that does self-reflection very soon. So I'll do something and I'm like, that could have been better here. And it could be stifling to your creativity, because you're always thinking about like, I did that, but how could it be better? But I'm always in the mindset of like improving myself constantly. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it can be a hindrance, but yeah.
You are so impressive. You're doing so many amazing things, and you are so smart and efficient and intentional. Back to that word intentional. It's really very inspiring to hear you speak and let us know, that there's work behind what you're doing. It takes work to be creative and to, follow your passions and do what you do. What are your what's next for you, and what are your dreams and goals for Dom in the City and beyond? What's happening next?
Oh man. So next I have a couple trips that are coming up specifically just for food. So I'm going to Chicago, which is one of my favorite cities. I always tell people Chicago. Like, yes. Right? It's like, it's our backyard to St. Louis, 4.5 hours if you're going at least 80 the whole way. 5 if
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's like 5 if you're not trying to get caught by Illinois state troopers. So I'm excited because like this trip is just about food. So it's like me exploring the food scene for like locally owned businesses, new businesses that just opened up. Like I'm going to a new winery that's just opening up. Also exploring art. It's like I want to go to like the aquarium, and then I want to go to a couple of art shows they have going on. And then I have a trip coming up for Jamaica, which I'm really excited about because I've actually never been to Jamaica. So I'm excited to like share the food with you guys there and the culture. So I really want to make sure that like I'm exploring outside of New York more often. And I also want to show people not just like international, but also domestic, because I know like sometimes people have the ability to take an international trip and sometimes they don't. But I want people to know like, hey, if you just want to go to Austin, like here's the great places for you to eat. So I really want to make sure it's like inclusive when I include like my travel plans. Things I would love for Dom in the City. I would love a cooking show, but like a light, fun cooking show. Like I always say like New Yorkers, like you lose me at after 30 minutes prep and cooking time on a recipe. So like I want something quick. I'm the queen of one-pot meals. Love a one-pot lasagna. Yes. Love. But yeah, I would love a cooking show. I would love for like me and my mom to be on there. That way we can like, everyone has someone that they can relate to on the show. Like you can watch it with your mom. Cause she's just like a woman she's always taking something that's so simple and like reinventing it and making it something like grand. Like one of my favorite dishes is like fried corn. Some people will call it cream corn, but it's not exactly the same. But she'll put like jalapenos and like squash and zucchini in it. And I'm like, what made you think to do this? And then cook it in like bacon fat. And I'm just like, this is just like amazing.
Yum.
She just elevates, like everything she does is elevated. And that's one of the reasons why I learned, like, for example, I think people think of soul food as something that's like covered and smothered. But I learned from her that like you can take dishes that have always been within your family and elevate them. So like when she makes fried chicken, it's like elevated. Like it's like partially fried, partially baked, not as greasy, still all the seasoning, but everything she touches is just like, I'm like, how did you come up with this? And she's never a woman of like, it's 1 cup of this, it's like a dash of that, a dash of that. I'm like, I need you to write it down.
It's an art. It's really an art, that kind of cooking. I'm so amazed when I meet people like that.
When I meet people who are recipe developers, I always tell people recipe developers have some of the hardest jobs, because like you really have to create a recipe out of thin air and you have to know what you're doing. And so I have so much respect for, many people, but recipe developers, I appreciate them.
Well, I can't wait to follow your travels, and I would definitely watch this cooking show.
Same.
Like, even if it's like, if it started on Instagram Live or anything, I'd be tuning in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing I really want to ask you is, I feel like you're a person that people go to for, okay, where can I shop a Black-owned business if they want to support a Black-owned business? So for our listeners, if someone's home and wants to shop online, what are some of your top cool recs that you love when it comes to Black-owned businesses?
We'll start with coffee. I love Boss Blend Coffee. She first she started out as e-commerce, and now she has a brick and mortar. She's in New Jersey. It's in Newark, New Jersey, which is like a cool 15 minutes from Midtown. I have a lot of Black-owned spirits on my bar. So Shinju whiskey, which is a Japanese whiskey, very great, love it. My favorite cocktail is shaking it with an egg white, lemon, juice, and simple syrup. Yep, that's one of my favorites. Uncle Nearest. I have a lot of Black-owned spirits on my bar. It's funny because me and my husband were just talking about like how half of our house is Black-owned, and now I can't think of anything.
Right, that's always the way.
I know, we totally put you on the spot.
I'm like on the spot. Partake cookies, which is great. I recommend to all my friends who have like allergies or allergens that they can't, indulge in. And they're also vegan as well too. Now they're sold inside of Target. You can even find them in Whole Foods. When it comes to lipstick, I say the Lip Bar because it's literally right here next to me. She's a Black woman that was on Shark Tank. Shark Tank turned her down, and now her brand is everywhere from Target to Walmart.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy. So once again, I always tell people, don't let other people tell you no. This is a perfect example why you don't do that. I love a company called, because I'm looking at my duffel bag right now. It's called Glamaholic. She's also a Black woman that is from Detroit. She makes everything from purses to backpacks to duffel bags. Like, I literally own too much of her collection. My husband's like, no more. We don't have any more space. Those are just a couple of Black owned products. But like I said, I also I try to make sure I create these guides, and I'm like really intentional about when I shop with people. So when I create these lists, they're like people I've already shopped with. I enjoyed my customer service experience. And I believe it always should be shared. So I always update my guide as well. And what I love about Lip Bar is when you go on their website, they show you the color on multiple like shades from like different ranges, from like fair to like deep dark, which is really nice to see like, what does this color look like on everybody instead of just one person.
What is the best thing that you're reading or watching right now?
The Gilded Age on HBO.
Your current nighttime moisturizer that you're using right now.
Current nighttime moisturizer. So I actually use Black Girl sunscreen because it actually is a moisturizer. It's funny that you guys asked this question because me and my friends were also talking about our skin routine yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, we're like over happy hour. We're like talking about like all of our steps. I'm like, first you cleanse, and then you use your toner, and then you use your serum because we're getting old, ladies. And then you moisturize. So yeah, but I use a Black Girl sunscreen. You know what's crazy is, as a food blogger, people always want to send me skincare products, and I'm just like, you know what? You can send it because serum is expensive.
Yeah, no, take it.
And it's so fun to try, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like they're like, it's like little toys when I get stuff. It's like, oh, what can I try next? I get so excited.
What is your go-to cocktail?
French 75.
Best advice you've ever received?
Never tell yourself no.
Who is a woman, either online or in your life, that is currently inspiring you?
I'll definitely say my friend Camille, which I mentioned earlier, the cocktail snob. Like I said, we started blogging together, and I remember like we would have like these blogging power hours, and just to see how much she's grown. And I feel like her growth has been so fast, but it's fast because she invests in herself. Like when I'm out at happy hour, she's like, I'm at home shooting content. And I'm like, you know what? That's why you're about to be a published author. So I don't know, but she's so inspiring. Like I've seen her work with like large companies, like Lipton green tea. Like she's found ways to take green tea and like put it into a cocktail. She's worked with HBO, and she also works full time. So like just to see her being so dedicated to her craft, and like see her move from like just doing photos to video as well too, and like she's always upping the ante like every time I see her, and it's just so inspiring. But she's also so down to earth when you meet her. She's exactly how she presents herself online, offline.
Okay, so where can we find you online? Where are we following you? Where are we following you on Instagram, the blog, the guides, all of it?
Yeah, so I'm Dom in the City on every platform. So that's DOM, the letter N, THECITY. I'm on Twitter. I feel like Twitter is where I share all my thoughts. Like it's like there's no filter. I'm definitely on Instagram. I'm on Pinterest if you like pinning. And I also have a website, which is just dominacity.com.
Dom, thank you so much. We could talk to you all day. This has been such a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're the best.
Yes, you're the best. Thank you.